project, doing the real estate thing, and yeah, putting some focus in my free time into friendship and trying to get it going.
Nice, nice. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into another episode of Late Night Bitcoin. I am your host, Q. I am coming to you once again from my mother's basement, and I'm joined tonight by my dear friend, Nasser Karama. Nasser, I like to ask everyone who comes on this show the same question to start, but we're going to venture off into a different direction tonight. I hope this offends some people genuinely. More so off the fact that if you feel uncomfortable hearing a conversation about NFTs and ordinals, I think that says a little bit more about you than anything else. Um, we're just talking here. I still don't own NFTs, so don't hold it against me here. Um, Nasser, how did you first hear about Bitcoin?
Yeah. Bitcoin. The first time I heard about Bitcoin was probably in like, I mean, definitely when people were using Silk Road, and at that point, I didn't really think much of it. In like financial terms, I definitely just saw it as like a black market way to transact and kind of um, have like people anonymously send like currency to each other because they were trying to just keep things low key. But um, that was probably around like 2014, 15 ish, 16. And then around like maybe 2017 or 18, probably 2017, my brother and his good buddy, they started like mining Litecoin and stuff. And he had a friend that was like super into Bitcoin. So he was kind of a bit more into it and got him and my brother set up with like miners and stuff. And then he got me to buy like ETH in like 2018, and I like bought the top, like barely barely threw in like anything though. And then it just started dumping. So like I didn't think twice about it. Fast forward to 2020, and then after the halving and stuff starts ripping again, and then it kind of around like 400 $500 ETH, I started paying attention and then didn't look back.
So did you just sort of like sat on it after it cratered in 2018?
Yeah, I mean, I maybe bought like a quarter of an ETH or something, and then
Like after it even crashed, so like you have a little bit, and then for whatever reason you've convinced yourself, okay, it's crashed 90%, but like let me just throw a little bit more money at it.
I didn't put more money in until 2020.
Oh, okay, fair,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
valid,
bought maybe like like $300 or $400 worth at the
valid.
top in 2018, and then it
Uh,
started dumping, and I was like, oh, what the fuck's going on? But
like how much of that downturn? Because like you kind of said, like you didn't even think about it. Like
yeah,
during that downturn, were you like, all right, this is just going to zero, or like where was your head? Was there like a series of it'll go back up tomorrow to we'll get a new high like soon to all right, this shit just is bullshit and it's going to zero. Like walk me through that.
at that point, I wasn't even really like aware of what I had put my money into, and at that point, I wasn't really investing even in like stocks or like really investing period. But it was kind of like some alpha from a friend, like, hey, he understood the tech, he understood like what it was about, he believed in it, and he's like been buying Bitcoin since like 2013 or 14 or something. And yeah, I had no idea, honestly. And it was like a matter of time until he reached out again. 2020, like November, December, he hit up my brother and he was like, hey, dude, crypto's ripping again. And then at that point, I had like some money from like the real estate stuff I was doing. So I kind of just started putting some in, learning as much as I could about the tech, because personally, like, I'm not super tech savvy to begin with. So really, I was trying to understand what the blockchain technology was, and then kind of for what got me like more into it was like the trading side, and then like kind of learning like basic TA and that kind of thing. And then I just honestly was glued to the screen for like the last 3 years and trying to learn as much as I can.
So what would you say or let me rephrase. Who would you say was one of the more helpful people in learning TA?
Dude, so many like different accounts. I would just like troll Twitter, troll like YouTube, and then like find like the analysts and whatever that like were breaking it down in simple ways, or like going over like the different patterns and like different indicators and stuff, and then messing around with TradingView myself, and then kind of just like understanding the pictures as they began to unfold and just like recognizing like patterns on the charts and stuff. And then obviously it's like if we're bullish, things are more likely to break out one way. If we're kind of going sideways, it's like up in the air. And then if it's like, if we're in a downtrend, it's most likely, the patterns that are like typically bearish will probably most likely break to the downside. So stuff like that.
And during this whole time, did you at any point buy Bitcoin, or were you just sort of like, nah, still on that side of it?
No, I mean, for me, I'm super bullish on Bitcoin. I'm not like, I love Bitcoin, and it leads the market, and I think it'll always lead crypto. And like, I definitely look at it as the ultimate store of value, and like ultrasound money for sure. And there's no doubt that like I want to accumulate Bitcoin as much as I can, especially when it's at these levels and lower, or even like as we start to get closer to the next halving. But really, yeah, I mean, I don't mess with too many like narratives. Even like for DeFi, I was very conservative, like, and I didn't really even like to mess with too many other layer ones, or like, it's like the standard for me, like Bitcoin, ETH, Polygon, Chainlink, and then like maybe like some promising like metaverse coins and stuff. But like I don't really hold a lot of other things. I'll usually like trade in and out of that stuff, and then just honestly Bitcoin and ETH is what I like to hold.
Valid. Okay. I want to talk NFTs now. When and how did you sort of venture into that space?
Yeah, so that's interesting too, because it's like the same buddy for me who got me, who's like my brother's friend, that they were mining and whatever. Like when stuff started ripping again, he was also, I was just asking him like what he was buying, because like he definitely taught me a lot as well, as far as just like, understanding like basics and like what projects were legit. But he kind of like jokingly was like, I think it was that summer before 21, when everything started ripping. I think it was like when Solana like was first like starting to really pump. It was like $20 Solana or something like that. And I was like asking him what he was buying, and he kind of like jokingly was like, yeah, I'm actually like, I don't know, I've been buying like a lot of NFTs lately. And then at that point I was just like, oh, fuck that, NFTs are a scam. Like I don't understand. I was like, I don't understand this. It's like another thing where like I didn't understand it. It's scary. I didn't see like the narrative or understand like really what it was, or like the culture behind it, because it was even like earlier than we are now for all that. And like PFPs like were not really even a thing, to where there was like that like massive dilution of PFP projects the last like their second bull cycle for NFTs or whatever in 21. But so I kind of faded it, and then that's when I could have like probably swooped. That was like that summer when like apes were going for like like 1 to 3 ETH or whatever, and you could probably still buy a punk for like, I don't know, like 5 ETH or something, or like less. But then like I was super hyper focused. It was like we had that 6-month downturn from that first top on Bitcoin, and then that was that summer, and then we ripped again, and then all the liquidity from like crypto started going into NFTs in that January, and then we pumped for like 4 months or 5 months or whatever. So like at the end of that like crypto cycle, at that top, when like ETH was kind of chilling at like 3,500 or something, I started kind of just like, I mean, at that point I started like just.
Don't tell me you're about to tell me that you bought NFTs at the top.
No, I didn't, because like everything hadn't ripped yet,
Okay,
and
okay, okay.
yeah, I'm saying like ETH was chilling at 3,500, and then that's when like NFTs started like kind of ripping, and then they like NFTs. What I noticed, at least like for my first like bull cycle, was that like when ETH goes down in USD value, that NFTs were going up in ETH price. So like, but then ETH had managed to chill. Like we hit that, like the top on ETH, like near 5K. That was like after Bitcoin, and then from like 4,700 or 4,800 or whatever, down to like 3,300 or 3K like ETH. We kind of were ripping in ETH value like on a lot of those NFTs because the narrative was like really strong, and like the whole, it was like all over the mainstream media, like news, and like it was like what, like maybe a year in for like Bored Ape Yacht Club, and then they were really like leading the way, and then like a bunch of projects were coming out claiming to be like the next Bored Ape Yacht Club, and then like it was just the whole 10K PFP narrative. So like that was ripping, and then I just kind of was starting to learn about it, and then like kind of figuring out really like what NFTs were. And like me as a kid, like I always collected basketball cards, I collected Pokemon cards, like anything collectible, like SBs I've been buying since like Nikes and stuff since I was like, like 10 years old or whatever. So like it took a while for it to click with me, like that, yeah, NFTs really, beyond like the tech, are essentially just like they're digital collectibles. And there's like a lot to say about collectibles, and like definitely like community too, because that's something else that like I think is really strong, because these collectibles are on the internet, so people are so close in communicating with each other versus like these other things that we had. There was like a lot of smaller like subgroups of people that were like didn't really feel like they were part of this big thing together. But with NFTs, like really like the culture and the community is like kind of everything behind it, and I think that drives like the desire to be part of this thing and just like the culture in general. And it feels just like, it felt more like understandable to me, having come from like a collector's mindset and background, that like even like with glass, like like glass pipes and stuff, like that was super counterculture. I used to collect like a bunch of headies, and then that market ripped. All of a sudden people were buying bongs for like fucking $50,000 and shit, so it's just like there's a lot when people can become like emotionally invested into something and feel like they're part of this movement or like this larger narrative. So yeah, I think in the sense of like a digital collectible, I think that's really powerful. And then if there's also like then the whole utility narrative like came into fruition, and like people are really starting to build cool shit like in some of these projects. So and then as we move everything like online, people are flexing their PFPs like as it, so it's just like there's like a lot of strength behind like what's going on.
To a degree, I think, but like, do you not feel certain events over the last year, like watching just the overall market, like nothing, you could have been in stocks, you could have been in bonds. I guess technically bonds wouldn't work like that, but you could have been in stocks, you could have been in Bitcoin only, you could have been spread across crypto. It didn't matter. Like you could have been in cash and you were screwed either way with inflation. Like wherever you were, you lost some material value. That said, like watching things like, Ordinals update come through, and then just an influx of NFTs get sent onto Bitcoin, only to now this like whole Ordinals hype like genuinely looks to have come and gone. Is there a degree where you feel like some, if not a good chunk of these NFTs are like just nothing burgers, and maybe a couple like a Bored Ape Yacht Club just has established itself as a brand more than anything, and those type of things will stick around, but the vast majority, just like in my opinion, the vast majority of all these other cryptocurrencies will inevitably just go away.
Yeah, no, I agree with that for sure. And I think just having experience like in anything, you're able to kind of pick, and you kind of like it becomes more palpable, like, and you can really feel what's like a joke and what's not, and what's really like building and what's just kind of like internet spam. And like yeah, I agree definitely, like with a lot of these like currencies that are gonna, you know, go to zero, there's definitely like a lot of projects that were just kind of able to gain momentum when basically the whole like NFT market was like exit liquidity from crypto, you know. And then like a lot of them, like a lot of projects made money, and like they weren't really much more than a brand, um, you know, with like some catchy art or something, but there wasn't really much substance behind it, and you can't really like sustain when you're not like representing yourself as a brand. You're representing yourself as an NFT, where people now expect so much more out of it. It's not like, you know, I don't know, it's not just like you're making a streetwear brand and you gave it a go. It's like you can't sustain yourself like that within like Web3, I think, and within NFTs, without actually, at this point, it's so competitive, and there is like so much capital coming into this, and people are not spending, you know, $20 like on these things. They're spending a lot of money, so they really expect more, and a lot of people are getting wrecked, so emotions are high, and everyone comes in expecting to just like be able to make tons of money off anything they buy. Because for a while, or I mean for a small instance, like from like January to like April or whatever, it pretty much was up only for like any NFTs you were buying. But I think as this thing moves forward and as it like continues to develop, it's just like, yeah, the projects that are doing shit will be around, and then the other ones will, their brands will fade, and like even just having the PFP of these like brands will be less significant and impactful. But
I I get sometimes lost when people talk about like, oh, like, you know, it's the community. And could you help me understand like what's the difference between just like a brand and then the community that seems to be like the hype that builds up around a lot of these projects that people seem to buy into?
yeah, I mean, even when I started kind of messing with NFTs, and it's funny too because I recently saw Frank Degod's say something similar, where it's like when he first came into NFTs, he was like, "Oh, community is a joke," or it's like it's not. It's like the smallest part of this whole thing, but really, like community is so important in NFTs. But you also need a successful project, because like community will only get you so far, you know, and like a brand is only as strong as like the community is behind it. But if there's no action, like people are going to lose their belief in like the project, and there's not really like a community will disappear, you know. And you're seeing that with like a lot of these bigger projects that are starting to shrink out. Like most of the people that are still around are like in disbelief, and they're just bag holders, and they're just hoping, you know, that something's gonna happen and turn around, and maybe it will. But like I think, yeah, community is like a strong part of like continuing the growth of certain projects. But like I think those communities stay around because they're seeing the founders like actually do shit with the project, and, you know, giving value back to the holders. Otherwise, you see like a lot of people jump ship from different projects.
Talk to me a little bit about friendship.
Yeah, so friendship. I mean, you know, I've been like working in food for like 10 years or so. Um, have my franchise license with Subway. I was doing like other like operations and management stuff for like the last 10 years after I graduated college, like before I got my real estate license. Always been really into food. Um, like to think, you know, like marketing and branding was something that I understood again just through like being a consumer, and just like, you know, having been in so many different collectible markets and stuff. I started making cookies like in like 2019, just because like I have a really big sweet tooth, and I was noticing. I was starting to order these cookies, like the Levain Bakery from the East Coast kind of style cookies. These 6-ounce, they call them like New York style now, is what people refer to them as. But there's like this big trend around like 2018, 2019. And it just seemed like everywhere on socials, you know, like cookies were popping up, and for me, seeing like a big, thick, cakey cookie was like mind blowing, and it was something so new. There were a few places in California that had them, so I was just like ordering cookies all the time from the East Coast, from like different like small retailers and stuff. And then at one point, like it was very evident that just like the trend with like poke in California too, like it, you know, these things like pick up and they gain traction so quick, and then all of a sudden they're national, you know, these different like small niches within food and like the different food trends. We saw it with like barbecue and brisket too, and like all that recently as well. So, and then smash burgers, you know, so everything's got its, you know, like time in the limelight, and there's these things that are just like they pick up like wildfire. So I mean, I was making cookies after I had been ordering them for like a long time because I just enjoyed them, and then I was like, fuck, I need to figure out how to make these so I can just make the kinds of cookies that I want to eat. So I was doing that, giving them to like all my friends and stuff, and then everyone was always like, oh, you need to sell these, you need to sell these. Having been in a franchise and franchisee and like having food experience, I definitely always like toyed with the notion of like starting some sort of concept. You know, had ideas for, okay, let's do a smash burger concept. Okay, let's do this elevated poke concept. Okay, let's do whatever. And then it's really though, like with any concept, it's like the branding is so important, because if you have a good product but you don't have a brand behind it, then there's nothing to really differentiate you from like the rest of the market, you know, because you need to be able to emotionally connect with people beyond just the food. You need to have something like that they want to be a part of, something that they're like, they want to wear a shirt repping your like, you know, restaurant or your whatever. So like once I had been, I mean, I've been making the cookies for like 3 years. Fast forward to like 21, 22, I saw like Andy Wynn. At that point, I was like super into NFTs again. Like I've always been into food. And then I saw Andy Wynn do like the Bored and Hungry concept with his ape. At that point, like the biggest project, like my holdings were like with Alien Friends. And then there were really no other like food based projects at that point besides Bored and Hungry. And then I just came up with the name Friend Chip, like when I was injured and I was like home for like 8 months, kind of chilling and like on crypto Twitter and like, you know, and then I was just like, oh fuck, well then there's the brand, because I had put the idea of, even though I had the product like for the cookies, I never really like understood how it would be worth it for me to like brand it, and like what would really be effective, and like what would be worth the time, and like be something special to not just be like some other cookie company. So then like I came up with the name, and then kind of just kept playing with ideas. Once I like kind of recovered from my leg injury, I put together like all the like branding stuff, like got a pop-up tent and like everything, and kind of just started going around LA, because I recognized too the importance of the presence in, you know, like IRL or like in the Web 2, you know, because it's not, you need to have like both sides of the coin to really like, food's not an easy thing, you know, to kind of be successful in. It could be like a huge, like, especially nowadays, like having brick and mortar is really tough. So having the entry to like 2 different markets, and then being able to establish as something that people are seeing around LA, which is like a hub around the world too. And there's a lot of eyes too, as far, you know, in LA, like for different food critics and just different concepts. And like, that was really important. So I think using that first in conjunction with like using the NFT branding, and then having a different like audience as well, made it like a something special, and that was like approachable in two ways.
Can you dive a little bit deeper on just like, you know, I think it's really cool that you're able to, you know, leverage this brand that you've essentially established, where like, you know, you've long established your dominance in food. You're crushing it in real life, making these cookies, and then combining it with like building out a whole NFT line. Like, how did you make it work together?
Yeah, so like the first idea with like the brand or with like the Web3 side of it was like integration of different communities. There's a bunch of dope art and there's strong communities behind them, and everyone loves like these projects that are using the IP and creating something cool with them and sharing something like, you know, IRL with the communities and showing that, okay, there's like a lot more going on to NFTs than just like magic internet money. So the second integration, I wanted to actually like have something that was like utilizing the tech as well. So I thought it would be cool like to do this kind of digital membership pass, which I've done. I've just like put out like the first 25 to be minted. And I think like 10 of them have been minted so far. But basically it's like a membership pass. It comes with like, you have this like photo NFT with like some art on it. And I did like a photo shoot with this guy who's like done commercials for like Lee Jeans and stuff, and it's pretty dope. I like the art on it, and essentially like as this continues to grow too, there will be like rewards through holding the pass, and the pass is token gated to the site for like redemption of like the first like 6-pack of cookies with like a limited art box. And then you have the NFT. In the future, we'll do discounts, merch, and then it's like a raffle ticket as well right now for like prizes out of the first 25. And there's definitely like the possibilities with this are endless, and it's definitely cool to just like play with that idea and see how I could continue to provide value for the people that hold them in the future as this grows. Because really, yeah, the sky's the limit with it, and I definitely want to, you know, make the people that hold it feel like they have it for a reason, and they're gonna get, you know, their any like new flavors I bust out or something, they'll be the first to try it, and I'll just like ship it to those people and that sort of thing. Just like, but I think like I have a lot of ideas for what I could do with it, but I think it's cool to be able to utilize just like some of that technology in conjunction with doing the like community integration and just using the art in itself too, because a lot can change with that.
Without blowing up your spot, do you want to maybe tease something you want to do with it, or what you got in store for friendship? Or will that just
Yeah,
totally blow your spot up?
no, I mean, honestly, the next step right now is just getting this further out into like different retailers like in LA. And then eventually we'll see where it goes. But like for this to have like a presence in LA as like, you know, the IRL shop that's like a Web3 inspired cafe, and then like yeah, I mean, the ideas are, there's a lot that can be done, but definitely like having this thing spread and just like being in different retailers, like and like bigger shops and stuff like that, and different smaller like food concepts, because I'm really trying to get it like established on the foodie side too, because it's like a good product too. It's not just like some shit cookie. Like I'm using like organic Strauss butter, like organic cane sugar, organic vanilla pasture, organic eggs. You know, like I really have a keen attention to detail on the quality of this, and it's not just because it's crazy, because like all these cookie companies, they're making these cookies and they're just using the most trash ingredients, and like they're just sugar bombs that make you feel like sick to your stomach, and they're like their overhead is like so low, and their food cost is so low, and they're just absolutely making a killing. But it's really sad to see that like none of them even focus like a little bit on the quality they're doing like mass scale, you know. So it's like I think that's something I'm like proud of with the product itself.
So, how long until I get to buy a friendship cookie at Subway? Or
That
let me do a different one that I think is more realistic. What about Poke Me? When
yeah,
can I
that's
get a
going
Poke
down.
Me?
That's going down. That'll happen in the next couple of weeks. But like the next things in LA
Honestly,
too, like
fuck yes.
yeah, smorgasbord, like, you know, other like farmers markets and stuff like that, and then definitely like hopefully some other concepts too. We'll be carrying them, but I just want to be able to focus on scaling it like appropriately so the quality remains the same, and then kind of taking like a lot's happened definitely in the last like 4 months with it since like it started, and like I just definitely want to focus on like the direction it needs to be, and like maintain the quality, and like continue to just even improve the quality of the brand and the presentation and the delivery. And I think with the idea, like, the sky's the limit, and I think there's a lot that can happen just like with the fusion of, like, Web3 and like cuisine, like, and it's definitely something it's sick to see that, like, there's a lot more people doing stuff with it too. And like, I sponsored an event like the other day. It was like Board Supper Club, and it's like Justin Lewis, and he was like the chef there, and then like Jeremy Fall popped in, and he's like a big deal too. And it's just like everyone, like, their focus on providing this like dope ass like supper club with a 4-course menu and like all these different like NFT IP products and like projects. There's just like a lot of people trying to do cool things like with NFTs and food, and I think using the tech too, like as like a membership or as like a ticket to get into these events, and then providing utility with them down the line. I think it's super cool. I mean, we saw it too with like Starbucks shifting their rewards like to Polygon, and like I think that's just the start of it. And I think a lot more will happen with like different like huge companies using like NFTs as ways to reward their customers and stuff, and people who've been faithful to the brands.
What about on the other side of that coin, though? Because this is a Bitcoin show. What about like paying in Bitcoin? How do you feel about, as someone who has brick and mortar stores, you deal with the credit card companies already. Like, let's say Subway rolled out a reward program over ETH or some other blockchain that tied back to an NFT. What about processing payments in
Processing
Bitcoin?
payments in Bitcoin?
Like, can I come buy a foot-long sub with Bitcoin?
I mean,
Like,
I think in the future, like fractional satoshis or whatever, like, will fucking definitely be, people eventually could be transacting like with Bitcoin, if the cost per transaction were to go down. But it just, I think right now, right, it doesn't make sense to buy a $7 foot long in Bitcoin.
I mean, I agree. It's just more out of like, there's a degree of this where I feel like there's a lot of things that, brands are going to do to draw attention to themselves, kind of. And I don't say this as someone who like remembers it. I was too young to like really recognize what was going on during like the whole .com craze, but you hear those stories about how like, every business just added .com to their name, and then all of a sudden like they went up in valuation. And you're seeing, I think, something kind of similar where a lot of these established companies will come in and they'll just say like, oh yeah, we're going to incorporate blockchain technology. And then all of a sudden they get like a little bit of a buzz going and it gets boosted, but it doesn't amount to anything. They're not using it as much as they anticipate, nor are their customers. So as both a user and also as sort of the part of some of these more established legacy brands, like, what would you like to see done better to connect traditional businesses back down to, Web3 and beyond?
Yeah, I think definitely like a lot of like larger corporations are definitely like, in a sense, like kind of like doing like a marketing like cash grab sort of gimmick to try and just like either like pretend that they're like with the trend or whatever, and they'll like, when stuff is like in the headlines, they'll say, oh yeah, like they'll be on Twitter and like they'll be using all the different like meme terms and stuff like that, and they're definitely just trying to capture like a whole another audience, because again, it comes back to marketing, and they just want to, they don't want to leave any like audience like untouched, and they want to like appeal to everybody. So as far as like connecting like the actual tech like back, I don't know, I think like the rewards like on Polygon, like with Starbucks, or like, just, I think that's like a cool way to push it forward. And I think that we'll see that more and more, just for like the the sake of like having things like on the blockchain for like, to have that like, to have that ledger like in the for it to be like proved that yeah, indeed, like it's just keeping track of everything in that way. Yeah, but
Where do we go from here? What is eating up your time? What is grinding your gears? We got about 400 plus days until the next halvening, so we got a little bit of time, I think, until the next bull run. What are the tea leaves telling you, my friend?
I'm optimistically bearish.
I'm stealing that. I love that. Optimistically bearish, as in like you're gonna buy lower prices.
I
Optimistic.
mean, I mean, yeah. If who wouldn't like to continue to buy at these like prices, and like hoping. I just like I look at the charts and I look where we were at. Like we're like about a year from the halving, and I think like that last like peak 1 year prior to the last halving was about half of the prior top. But like if we compare where we're at now, the charts are not really like identical if you look at it like from the time before, like prior to that each halving, you know what I mean? And it just seems like when you look at a chart like before it breaks out, there's even like on the macro, like if you look at the like whatever 6 month or like yearly, you see kind of more of a straight line consolidation like if you zoom out, and we're not really there yet. And I just, if anything, like I'm not sure like when this like rip to 30K will happen, or if it will, and maybe the rip was just to 25K this time because max pain, and like maybe we just start going down a little bit for the next 6 months, and then we start to slowly go back up, and then the halving, and then we rip. But when 15K hit and when like 900 ETH hit, I was definitely for sure convinced that that was like the bottom, and it proved to be like the local bottom, at least for that. And then there's always relief. We were going down for like a year and a half basically. So, and then we've kind of turned around for like what I think like 2 months now or something. We've been going up, but yeah, I don't know. I think 20K is going to happen again, maybe like below. I don't know if we go like we're doing like a downward like descending triangle, and we're going to break down from that and then start going sideways or something like that. But it kind of looks like it if you kind of draw the bear flag out from like the top of the last top, the last top down. It kind of seems like we're going to break out to the downside and then kind of go sideways. But I mean, and then you never know with crypto, right? It's just like if everyone's thinking one thing, it typically tends to go the other way anyways. And I feel like a lot of people too have been like really bullish again, and that makes me even more bearish.
Yeah, I have a like I am a big TA guy. I get off just doing TA for fun. Like that is I'm in that camp. I would agree with your idea of optimistically bearish. I think I'm more hopeful for lower prices. But I will bring up something else that I just think whether or not people agree that this will be a catalyst, like you can throw it in the comments with what you think, but we still haven't gotten the fallout from DC as to the whole FTX debacle. And then as a result, like what sort of regulation we're going to start to see. It was interesting to hear Gary Gensler talk about last week, like, yeah, everything is a security except for Bitcoin. That said, like it does nothing to give you sort of insight of how it would be regulated, whether or not the SEC is actually going to go after all these other cryptocurrencies, a whole other conversation. But I think if you see some sort of like regulatory clampdown in any way, whether it be, all exchanges have to sort of adhere to different policies or get shut down. So therefore it becomes harder to transact regularly for the average retail interested buyer, seller, investor. Just something as simple as that, I think, can just diminish the price. But I don't know. Maybe we're just trying to be a little more hopeful to get more cheap
No,
cheap
no,
stats.
yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying though, but I think that will be like a temporary capitulation, and I think long term that regulation's bullish for crypto because it kind of establishes it, even more for mainstream like and mass adoption. Like, and I think definitely it's like a shakeout game, and like in order for, let's say, like if we go like to 100 or whatever in the future, these, we hit like 150, it's like these like rallies are fueled by profit taking, and like the lower we get, essentially the higher we'll go, and the longer it takes for us to go down, then the longer like gradual like up climb that we're gonna have, and I think, yeah, I think that the shakeouts for like only for like a moment in time, and even like when honestly when FTX like happened and like the Luna stuff, like a lot of my friends that are not like into crypto and stuff were like, oh my god, like they thought everything was going to zero, but I was just like, okay, this is like just, yeah, it's fucked that it happened, but it's like all FUD too for shakeouts, and like think about how many people like were buying those huge dips and capitulations, and then look at even Solana, $8 ripped and like did a 3x in like a month. It's just like you can kind of feel like when things are like, I mean, it's like when you have that euphoria sell, right? When you have that gut sinking feeling that it's over, buy. So it's just like, I don't know. I think things like will temporarily have like negative price effects, and then also like there's always the cycle narrative too, and if history repeats, the market will recover and we'll have another cycle once there's another stronger narrative, and like proving to the mainstream that like, yeah, this is indeed like the future of transaction, and then it's just going to be the same cycle and narrative over again for people to take profit and start dumping, and so they can buy it lower again and then do the same, because every like all commodities, they all have cycles in trading and stocks. It's just like not, trading's truly like a game, it's not, you can't get caught up in the up only narrative regardless of like how promising the technology or product that you're investing in is, because trading's not about the product only, trading is about taking money from the next person. So it's like, I don't know.
How much like how much do you feel like there is a degree of a little bit of an echo chamber that we just inherently put ourselves in by being on Bitcoin Twitter and crypto Twitter and hearing and listening to the opinions and ideas that we do, where we're almost like self-validating our own beliefs. So, like the up only narrative is the
Yeah.
perfect example of like you are just in an echo chamber if you just believe up only. Like every market is cyclical, whether it
Yeah.
is a healthy free market or not. Like things come in waves. And how do you try to combat that to not buy into that narrative?
I just try and learn as much as I can about the history of like what I'm kind of investing in, and like understand other external factors that are affecting, price. And also really like you just got to get wrecked a few times until you figure it out, and then you kind of understand that like up only is bullshit, and like everything in life is cyclical, not just like, not just markets. Like, so it's easy though, like if you're a novice or like you come into crypto or you come into something when it's pumping, like you don't think twice that it would ever correct, because you're just falling for that trend. And like you're, if you don't really also understand like what you're investing in, I mean, I think it's just like understanding markets and understanding trading, because like, yeah, regardless of how good the tech is, or like again like what you're buying or what you're investing in, like it's cyclical. So if something rips too, there's always like a correction. And I think it's, you can't time the top and you can't time the bottom, and DCing is definitely the safest regardless. But I think you can also kind of tell when to put those bigger chunks in on spot, and I think a lot of people can agree with, just for me, like with crypto, when it clicked was just like when I first, I mean, before I was like using ETH to like buy things, or even send big chunks of money around. Like it didn't. That for me in itself is like the biggest value in crypto. It's just like that real time being able to send somebody money like without like a third party, you know. That is just like something really special in itself. And I just think, yeah, just the store value with Bitcoin is just makes sense. Buy when it's low, you know. We'll see.
So historically, we have seen, or at least as long as sort of other cryptocurrencies have existed around Bitcoin during these cycles, a lot of them die off. I kind of alluded to that earlier that, most, in my opinion, all other than Bitcoin will eventually just go to zero. Like in this cycle, which ones or which one in particular do you think is just it's not going to be there on the next cycle? It is dying as we speak.
I mean, I can speak to the ones that I think will be around. I think like
No, I want pain and chaos.
because then it'll help. Yeah, I don't know. It's like only other
No,
DeFi like
go for it. Talk
yeah,
to me
it's
what
like
you think will be around.
for like layer ones, it's like AVAX and Solana. Honestly, I think besides like fucking ETH, and then I think Polygon for
But
layer
you
two.
think Solana's going to stick around?
I do,
Really?
dude. Yeah.
Really?
A lot of
Like,
people
didn't they
use.
just have a fucking network spaz out last week again?
They do all the time, but like they could improve the network, and then people are building on Solana like the most. You know, just be like. And honestly, for me, it's like follow the smart money. Like it's similar to like the whole Basie like Bored Ape Yacht Club valuation, like year one with Google giving them 400 mil. It's like Google's the third largest holder of Solana. They're doing like the validator nodes in the cloud with Solana and ETH, and like I just don't think. I think it's just gonna be another opportunity for like another large like things get shaken out with FUD, and then like things continue to improve. Look at ETH 2.0, going to proof of stake from like proof of work and shit. Like people are always going to continue to build on it. I don't think Solana is going anywhere. I think AVAX, Solana, Polygon, Chainlink, ETH, Bitcoin, and then Metaverse like Gala, Sand, Mana, and Ape. And then if anything else comes out, those are really kind of my.
And how many of those are you a holder of? All of them?
As of now, no. I'm just holding like some NFTs and then stable right now.
Fair.
Yeah.
I'm not over the fact that you think Solana sticks around. There's no way. Like, I understand the argument that Google has a lot of vested interest in it, but like Google is also notorious for, hey, if something's not working, we'd rather cut our losses here and move on than like continue to throw money at something that's just sort of like dying on its last leg. Like they are famous for giving bonuses to people who end their projects when they recognize like, hey, this isn't working. But also, I just think it's funny when they call themselves DeFi and then it's literally a corporation that runs all of their nodes. Like you or I could never run a Solana node, and that to me is a little like.
Yeah, that's definitely the argument against it for sure. But that's also, it's not like I'm kind of more like bullish on it in the sense of like its value going up for the sake of like VCs and other like big corporate players making money on it. But I don't know like where it's gonna go. But
Fair.
Yeah.
We're winding down. We got like a little bit more than 5 minutes left. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you're itching to talk about or wish that I had asked you?
Yeah, when you can try the cookies.
Dude, I honestly,
gotta bring you some.
I was a little bummed that you didn't come over because I was looking forward to the cookies. I have a question though that I forgot to ask when we were talking about that. So Girl Scouts cookie season is like right now, but it ends this week. How hyped are you to get to sell friendships like unencumbered? No Girl Scouts are gonna block your territory.
Actually, it's been nice because I'm definitely gonna stock up on some Girl Scout cookies and like probably make some flavors with like with the Girl Scout cookies. So I've definitely Yeah.
Oh my God, that sounds incredible.
There are
My,
little kids in my neighborhood. They're on my turf with the cookies.
uh, dude, I have a love-hate relationship with cookies in particular and just sweets in general. And you kind of talked about the fact that you have this sweet tooth and that's what led you to making cookies. Like,
Yeah.
but do you feel like you're still like are you eating the same amount of sweets as you were that were just like sort of store-bought sweets, or are you finding yourself eating less because you're making so much?
Yeah, I mean, like since I was a kid and even like, through high school and whatever, like there's always like something new that I'm craving. And definitely like, I mean, I'm like a huge workout buff too. So it's like I'm very aware of like the macros in like what I'm eating and like the cookies and stuff. And like again, like with my cookies, I'm using like a much like higher quality butter, much higher quality like even sugar, which like, raw like unprocessed cane sugar has like it's like a source of antioxidants as well. It's much more mild like as far as like the sweet taste, to the palate, and like you can just feel it like being somebody who's like I'm very like aware of how my body digests and stores onto like different kinds of foods, and like you can just when I eat one of my cookies, it's not just sitting in my stomach and like, not it processes much differently too. Like when you're using a good butter that's like made from like, pasture like cream from pasture raised cattle, and like, it's real like butter fat, and it's not like some processed like, and it's not processed sugar. So but like I'll definitely eat them like as a treat, and I'll be like, I'll eat one like over the course of a day or something like that, or I'll like save it for like when I want to eat something sweet. I'll eat like a whole cookie or something like that, because they're big too. They're 5 ounces, so they're probably
Damn.
like 5 or 6. Yeah, they're probably like 500 calories like for the chocolate chip or something, to like, anywhere up to like 650 to 700, depending if there's like whatever other flavors are in the cookie. But even the flour too, like the organic flour, it like the way it sits in your stomach and the way your body digests and processes it, it's a lot different than using processed flours or like heat treated flours.
Bro, just text me where you're going this weekend with friendship. And I'll show up. I need to try these cookies already.
I'll bring you some for sure. I gotta have you try some.
Also, like I'm literally at Poke Me tomorrow, just because I go to the physical therapy office that's right there. So just tell me when you guys have shipped in store, and I will be the first person to buy a friendship cookie from Poke Me.
I
I'm
will.
gonna pad
I
those
will for sure.
stats at the Golden Cove Poke Me. I'm telling you right now. You're gonna sell 2 cookies a week, guaranteed, and it's gonna be me every fucking week.
Nice. That's good to know.
Uh, Nasser, my brother, we are getting to that point. It is way past my bedtime. It is definitely past yours. I will leave you with the final word, hand off, and let everyone in the audience know where they can stay up to date with everything you got cooking.
Yeah. First, just want to say thank you, Q. It's super dope to be on here and chat with you. It's definitely it's a cool way to connect, and it's dope to see us both kind of have this shared interest. And anyone who wants to follow along at Friendship6 on Twitter, Friendship Cookie Co on Instagram, and all the updates and stuff will be there. The website's going, but and we'll be updated too on like when we'll be doing orders and online drops. So new flavors, all that stuff.
Awesome, brother. It's always great getting to talk with you in so many different capacities. I will surely see you soon, and we definitely gotta kick it soon. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes another episode of Late Night Bitcoin with Q. We will be back tomorrow night for a fun little double header of the Bitcoin Ballers, and of course, another episode of Late Night Bitcoin. I'm gonna go smoke some
Thanks,
weed.
dude.
Good night.